Good afternoon. I was just looking at the last sharings that I've done and been talking about, or I've been talking about clarity. And I looked, I've been dealing with this the last 15 sharings. I started out with cultivating indifference, which meant that I wasn't vested in any outcome, that I had to work on disassociating myself from expectations. Okay, so that was what cultivating indifference, and I like that. Cultivating indifference sounds. I liked how it sounds, and then I had to learn that not to look to outside sources. I had no words but my own, because if I was going to get my head around this, what clarity, what it represents, what it means to me as the pinnacle of my pre-awakening state, the pinnacle was to attain clarity. So then I had to go through no words but my own. It meant dismiss what other people had to say, because I wasn't going to find the answers there, and I was finding that the words that I had stood on their own, served me well. And then I started talking about observing life, sitting by a river, watching life go by. And this is the time where the witness that had always been a separate entity that I always had an ongoing dialogue with, somewhere up one of the corners of the room, generally. Anyway, learning this, sitting by the river, what came to me other than that it was possible to separate myself from living. And I had to do this in order that I could reconcile, that I could incorporate, that I could bring the witness, that I could become aware that the witness has never been there, it's always been here. And that was sitting by the river. And there's a method to my madness. I think that there was an end game, and we'll get to that. And then I had to even get more. This cultivating indifference kind of found completion in being unencumbered. And this is expectations, rewards. To be unencumbered, to be free from any expectations, to be free from any prior prejudices that I might have as to what clarity was meant to me. So even a farther separation from words and ideas and influences of others, because I was learning, that was being shown that all of that is well and good and served its time and place, but it wasn't going to help me in the specific task I had at hand. And then I'd start talking about consequences. Now, I separate myself from others' words, but what are the consequences of my own words? And how that words inevitably lead to actions. Words to lead to deeds. And this is when I was interrupted by a phone call. And I did do part 1 and part 2. Good exercise for me. Sorry, I'm looking at my list and I misspoke. Sitting by a river, disengage, separating myself, okay? Then become unencumbered. So this was an ongoing process to see consequences of actions, consequences of words leading to action, living under the delusion or the illusion that my witness was separate somehow from myself. And all this was aimed at, the next topic was unlocking clarity. Okay, I had to do some deep contemplation. So first I had to do some personal kind of transformations. And then I had to remind myself again to be detached. Okay, I'm after this elusive state of clarity or whatever it is. And I couldn't be attached to anything, mostly expectations, predilections, predetermined concepts. These I needed to detach from expectations, detach from everything. And then I realized that in this quest, I love that word, in this quest for clarity, for a state of clarity, a clarity consciousness, the art of being clear, whatever it is, I had to prepare the vehicle, which meant paying attention to my body, paying attention to my emotions and feelings and spirit, paying attention to the mundane, paying attention to the everyday, paying attention to what allowed me, what houses me, my dwelling. I dwell in this vehicle. So prepare it, which meant meditation, meant relaxation. It meant doing things that I enjoyed, relaxing. And then in this process, I realized it was all internal. And I said, what a rich internal life I'm gifted with. And so are we all, if we would just learn to pay attention, focus inward. This was my rich internal life. And then I had appreciation of what I call golden dawn, the way that I greet moment. This was a transformation in and of itself. This idea that started out by capturing moments that were really, reliving moments that were really critical, really engrossing, really overwhelming. And this was the moment the sun, I've watched many sunrises, and as the sun pops up from the horizon, preferably from the ocean. I like to watch the sunrise from fire from water. That just suits me. From the water comes fire. Or so it seems from the vantage point of sitting on the shore watching that golden orb. And then this golden dawn. And then I became aware, this was a transformation, that I could bring that moment. I could recapture it, I could relive it, I could experience it. And I could look at every moment that I'm gifted with as golden. So since this time, I've been in a perpetual state of goldenness, and I don't see it dissipating. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm going to cultivate this golden dawn, this moment by moment, because it's glorious. And then I had to go back and do this is some self-examination and talk about absolute certainty. Just to remind myself that on this quest to clarity, I could never be absolutely certain, because life has taught me that certainty only represents, especially absolute certainty, represents a track record, a cumulative track record of consistently being wrong. One of the few constants in my life has been when I'm certain, I'm sure, well, time proves me wrong. Now I just laugh every day if the words, and it's a tendency, it's part of my personality. I like to pretend, I like to trick myself into anything is for certain. So I had to remind myself, so it's a lot of preparation and then backtracking because new things come up. And then I said, okay, my process is to eliminate, a process of elimination is not this, not that, not this, not that. And clarity is not about thinking. Clarity is not about seeing. Clarity is not about feeling. So start eliminating things that clarity in that whatever this word means to me or will come to mean to me, it's none of those things. Clarity is not to, for me, the experience, this elusive quest is not about seeing clearly, thinking clearly, feeling clearly, hearing clearly. Okay. None of those sense-driven phenomenons. Okay. And then I got a little inkling. Okay, here I got just epiphany. It was just boom. One of those gifts from a deep meditative state said, hierarchies of importance. So clarity could possibly, this is the first thing that passed my litmus test of what it wasn't. What it might possibly be is being able to instantly see the hierarchy. To quantify, to express levels of importance. And the more rapidly I can accomplish this, the more meaningful, the more appropriate to what I was struggling to say with the hierarchy's importance. Start to be able to instantly, automatically quantify hierarchy, to recognize importance of anything or everything, and where it was in the level, this hierarchy. And I talked about, continue this idea of seeing the hierarchy by prioritize. Prioritize to put my efforts into the most important. So not only have to see that, then I have to take it the next step and live with it, deal with that, accept that, from most important to least important. Just because there's 10 things between 1 and 10 doesn't mean that 10 is of no significance. What prioritize means is when, if and when I deal with number 10, I have to go through their predecessors first. But that doesn't mean that because it's near the bottom of the hierarchy that it doesn't deserve attention or effort. It just might. And then I talked about where I'm going with all this, the process that I've been going through, that I've shared with these little rehash of the last 15 sharings. How I could see transition, change to a consequence of transformation. And what's important here is this transition and the transformation that it leads to is ongoing, continuous, without end. Even though I made up a beginning, I can sort of imagine the beginning. No such luck with imagining an end. So that transition, that process which I've just shared, is everything is part of all the process. And now I'm left to see how am I going to experience. I'm in the throes of experiencing this transition. And I'm still patiently waiting to see where it's all leading to. What the transformation, what will be the consequences? What will be the results of this transformation? Just what does it mean? So everything that I've been leading up to is today's topic. And that's an overarching, all enveloping journey to clarity. This is what it's been about. And this has been post abiding awakening. This has been my most significant, my most extended transition. And we're talking of the last 6 years since I had my awakening, my abiding awakening, my permanent awakening experience. So it's pretty significant, and it's stretched out over months. And it's taken a lot of effort, but if I could, can I say effortless effort? Because it was choiceless. I didn't choose this, it chose me. And always what I've appreciated about journey to some end, the journey to awakening. But I begin to really appreciate that the destination is beyond words. It's amazing. But the steps, the effort, the process can't be overlooked, can't be shadowed by the consequence. It has to be appreciated in and of itself. So that's what this is today, is a reminder to myself that I need to stop and smell the roses. I need to slow down. I need to appreciate. I need to luxuriate in my process of the journey, in my step by step. I have to I say I have to. Well, what I can say is that if I don't, it might be a waste, because the journey is of critical import. So today it's about enjoying this journey. And at this point in my journey, what's become clear to me, maybe that's clarity, what's become obvious to me is that I'm sharing a process. If or when I dwell in a state of clarity, I won't reveal what that means to me, because I would take away a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of opportunity from anyone that wanted to embark on a similar journey. I don't want to give expectations. I think just watching the process, just sharing the process, sharing the transition, because I can feel the changes that are leading up to this transformation. But just today in my extended meditation, it realized, because I was going to document it as it became experienceable for myself. I was going to share this experience. And now I see that why should I spoil? Why should I cloudy the journey to clarity? I should share my appreciation. I can document the steps that came to me, the direction that I've been led. I can share all these things. But accept what I discover clarity eventually means for me. And I think most importantly is that words would escape me. Somehow I have a sense that is so overpowering, so sweeping, so consequential of a transformation that words would fail. Words would be a pale imitation of the state of clarity. Maybe I certainly would be paying attention to see if I can see any consequences, any results, any changes, any difference of when I arrive, when and if, at my destination. What will those transformations mean, most importantly to me, but is of secondary importance, how I impact, how my life affects those that I come in contact with. Because I pay attention to that. Just as casting a stone in a still pond sends ripples, so too does our actions, our words, send ripples that go to infinity. Just because it's reaching the artificial boundary, those waves continue. So our actions, our behavior, our understanding has consequences that can be felt on more and more subtle levels as it gets farther away from the point of origin where you threw the stone in the cool, calm pond. So it serves me well to think of my behaviors. What am I sending out? What are the consequences of my thoughts, words, deeds? It can either, as I see it, contribute to the general wellness of the world, or just be part of the noise, the sickness, the negative. To hope to have any more impact on the world than that. And everybody can pick up bad vibes. But like the old Beach Boys song, Good Vibrations, the good vibrations, people are usually so self-centered, so into their mind games that they can't really appreciate. That's just a fleeting. And there's something beautiful in that shortness. The short occurrence when just something puts a smile, you don't know what or where. You don't know the source. You just know that you received it. So, this is what I would be watching. This will be maybe even more important. Yes, certainly more important than finally finding this elusive clarity will be the impact that it has on, as I said, first me, because the impact, I feel it first. And then to watch as it comes out. We talked about being outer directed, taking our cues from the outside and bringing them in, and tailoring our behavior, tailoring our thinking, tailoring our ideas of who and what we are by outside influences. And I shared at a very early age, I understood that for me, what was inside was much more relevant, much more interesting, much more within my control, as limited as that is. It's certainly tremendous when compared to my ability to control the outside world. So this is when we start thinking of contributions. All my work, all my journey, hopefully the consequence will, in my small, ordinary, normal way, contribute to the general wellness, the general goodness, the general beauty, to again be part of the song of the universe, the rhythm of the universe, to share, to do your little bit to amplify that, so that someone else their ears might turn, or they might, wow, what is that? The most you can hope for is to give somebody pause. That's beautiful when you interrupt their self-centered, outer directed and supported idea. If you can give them pause, no matter how brief, what could be more of a blessing? What could be a greater accomplishment in terms of your relationship to the other? It's easy to say that we're all one, and of course we are. But as long as the rest of the people are playing the game of separation and division, which is pretty much the condition, you look anywhere, it's all about separation and division. When everyone is playing that game, laboring under the illusion of this separateness and division, that somehow defines them through limitations. I'm this, I'm not that. We're everything. But as long as we're living in a rigged game, rigged by ignorance, we do have time. Everyone will get to the state of oneness. And what interesting times that will be. Meanwhile, let's see how this journey to clarity, this transition to a transformation, let's see what I can bring to the table in my limited way.